Well, that was a really great conversation about NFTs between Bitcoiners, which is kind of weird, but you already listened what they had to said about this. I think that Lunaticoin, you forgot your Lunaticoin. Hey, you forgot your dead nose, I guess though. Okay. Well, I'm going to help you through the rest of the day here in the dev track, and we are going to enjoy a lot of different talks and maybe panels about Lightning, Bitcoin in a more technical stuff and in a more technical approach. Right now we are going to have Burak that is going to have a talk called Onboarding Billions to Lightning. That is a really great technology that have been enabling payments here in the conference, but also in other places in the world. So if Burak, you are ready. Yes, sir, Burak, so thanks a lot for being here, and remember to use the hashtag AdoptingBTC to share your photos, your memes, your tweets about this, so thanks.
All right, hi guys, my name is Burak. So I'm also known as the LND Slayer. I broke LND twice. So today I'll be talking about how to scale Lightning to billions. As many of you know, Lightning faces many challenges from routing to jamming. From my perspective, the most fundamental problem is the on-chain onboarding part. So obviously, today, for each Lightning channel, you need a UTXO representation, which doesn't scale to whole planet, but we can address that with a shared UTXO model. So I'll be talking about 3 new primitives that can address these issues. Obviously, these primitives are coming from the feature. It takes a bunch of work and a bunch of opcodes and so forth, but happy to give you my input. So obviously, Lightning in its current form doesn't scale well because again you need an on-chain representation. It can, I think I run the numbers before, Lightning can on-chain can onboard we can onboard up to almost 100 million people onto Lightning on-chain annually. And with channel addresses, we can go beyond 100 million. But we have to iterate the idea further in a channel factory fashion. It's called tap-leaf channels. I coined the term. And it can potentially scale to whole planets. And factory swaps makes tap-leaf channels more convenient. Channel addresses is basically a non-interactive channel address scheme. And that is L2 compatible. Today, in order to open a Lightning channel, you need a possession of the UTXOs, right? Either in your hot wallet or in your cold storage, you need to knowledge of the inputs, the out points, in order to fund the 2 of 2 multisig, so that you can craft the refund output in advance of funding it. Which means that to open a channel, you need at least 1 input or more that you already know. That might work for Bitcoiners, but that doesn't really scale in the long term, because imagine you're onboarding someone to Lightning who have no UTXOs, just someone new to Lightning and Bitcoin overall. So in that case, ideally, we want users to have a Lightning address, a Bitcoin, a channel address, a Bitcoin taproot address that can be funded by any third party, anyone. From A, basically F, the circle ones are the UTXOs, the rectangle ones are the transactions. So F being the channel address, the 2 of 2 basically, the channel address, which is a page 32M address. A is the funder, and it can be an exchange or a payroll service or a friend. So you craft the Bitcoin address sent to a third party. A third party basically opens a channel for 2 other parties, me and my channel partner. So for better analogy, I'm using the term LSP because it's more convenient. I mean, I think, in my opinion, routing should be taken care of professionals. So you wouldn't ideally open channel to random dudes. So the idea is that you can, A can fund F non-interactively, and in an ideal case, my channel partner is responsive and collaborative. So my channel partner exchange signatures to exit from the L2 path. So F is a taproot address with a key path and a single leaf script path. The script path is called refund. And in a bad case, like in case my channel partner is unresponsive or uncollaborative when F is funded, I can exit from the refund path without requiring signatures from the L2 path. In a happy case, if my channel partner is responsive, my channel partner LSP exchange signatures all the way up to settle 0, E0, E1, and settle, so that I have formal guarantee that I can exit from the key path L2. In a bad case, like my channel partner is uncollaborative, I can exit from refund path by triggering a refund trigger transaction. And after a certain delay, I can trigger another transaction refund claim to claim my funds back without requiring a corporation from my partner. So the way this works, obviously it requires a bunch of opcodes. It requires an introspection opcode in any form. For this case, in this case, I'm using optxhash from Rusty, which is a transaction introspection opcode. But going line by line, so in the first line, the user, right, can trigger the refund trigger transaction with his own public key anytime. And then the second line, we determine the transaction fees. I'll come to that in a second. In the third line, we constrain transaction fields to certain fields because we want refund trigger to be deterministic, the transaction ports. So we only want to allow F and R. We only want to spend from F and fund R. We don't want to allow any fee supplier inputs or any other outputs to make the transaction ID deterministic. And I'll explain why we want to make it deterministic. And then we can inspect the F value and R value again with txhash or TX. OptX approach is better. And we can calculate the difference, which gives us the transaction fees. Again, on the third line, the TX flash D2C to 88, it basically constrains number of inputs and outputs to 1, log time version and an RBF sequence, and the R script pub key, which is a predetermined preset script pub key. And as for inspecting F and R values, we can use this TX flag. And as for the fee tiers, we have 10 different fee tiers under if-else branches. I know this is a long script. So the idea is that when I want to trigger a refund, I go the script path, I trigger refund trigger, which spends F and R and funds R, and no other inputs or outputs are allowed. And I can only make 10 different variations of refund trigger because only 10 different fee tiers are allowed. It means the n value gap between F and R must be 10 different variations. It means R can have 10 different values. It means refund trigger transaction ID can have 10 different values, 10 different IDs. So why do we want this? Because we want transaction ID to be deterministic because we want to use it as a revocation message in order to revoke the refund path. So in a happy case, when my channel partner is responsive, exchange signatures all the way up to settled 0, then I need to sign 10 different versions of refund trigger as revocation messages and send to my channel partner because I can exit from L2 path. I should never trigger refund. And if I do, my channel partner can immediately take it. if I'm not a malicious actor, I can, after a certain period, I can claim my fund back. So for the refund breach, with the revocation message, which is basically the transaction out point, our out point is revocation. By inspecting out point with txhash flag 20020 and with the LSP, actually it should be LSP pub key with checkstick from stack, which is another soft fork, another opcode. My channel partner can take all funds immediately. And after a certain delay, I can, as a user, claim my funds. So this way we can scale a little better. It means that an exchange can pay out to thousands of outputs. And one of these outputs may be a channel address. Some of them might be single sig outputs. You cannot differentiate. It kind of checks all boxes, right? You get a less on-chain footprint, you get better privacy, and you get more convenient UX, right? But we need to iterate this idea further because it scales a little better, but you still need a UTXO representation for a channel. And here's where tap-leaf channels comes in. So tap-leaf channels is basically non-interactive channels nest on a UTXO on a channel factory on a shared UTXO model. I guess channel factory is nothing new, but this approach is using opt-tap-leaf update verify, which is another software proposal. So the idea is that we can have millions of channels under a tap leaf, under a tap tree, and when I exit from a channel, when I close a channel, whether it's a forced closure or a collaborative closure, with tap leaf update verify, I exclude the tap leaf from the tree by replacing it with an empty tap leaf, and the remaining channels, the remaining tap leaves remain the same, and I basically I spend from a shared UTXO, and I reconstruct the Neve state, the Neve shared UTXO on the same output index. You might tell this, well, spending a tap leaf might consume lots of resources, like the control block size. It might be a channel, a tree with tens of levels. But the thing is, the magic of Lightning is not closing a channel. It is the ability to close a channel. So when you open a channel, when there is a channel, the channel is meant to remain open in your lifetime. But it's good to have the ability to close a channel. So when you close a channel, like when you have a channel, when you spend the funds, it credits your inbound balance. So it works in two ways. So we ideally don't close channels. I mean, we rarely close channels. So the idea is that under a single tap leaf, we can, under if-else branches, we can embed our non-interactive scheme, starting with tap leaf update verify, or could be a similar proposal. When we spend this channel, this tap leaf, we exclude this tap leaf from the tree. As you can see, in a tap leaf, in a channel factory, we have a bunch of tap leaves channels, and each giving each having this channel tap leaf channel template. So we must, within our script, tap leaf script, we need to inspect. We need to be sure about our channel capacity. So when I spend from a shared UTXO, in this context, channel factory, I reconstruct the Neve state, the Neve channel factory state, on the same output index, and the gap gives me my channel capacity. In this case, I can inspect the first input, the first output, and the difference with subtraction, which is another proposal. It gives me my channel capacity, and I can constrain this value to a hard-coded channel capacity. In case of an L2 path closure, so I do L2 in 3 cases, right? I use L2 for collaborative closures, channel updates, and forced closures. And I use refund for only refunds. So for L2 path closure, it's slightly different from the channel address spec. In this case, we are constructing a custom Ccache preimage instead of Ccache all or Ccache no prevout. So because when a tap leaf exits from the channel, the tree, the new channel factory's out point changes, and the context of the channel factory is undeterministic. So in order to do that, we want to exclude transaction inputs from the preimage, Ccache preimage. So instead, we replace inputs with a channel ID. A channel ID is a unique ID that represents a tap leaf channel. And we can concatenate this with the output template, with a TX hash flag that covers all transaction outputs, concatenating them and hashing it, giving me a custom Ccache preimage. And from a 2 of 2 music pub key, I can exit from this channel in the L2 path case. And as for refund closure, it's similar. If my channel partner is uncollaborative, I can exit from this path. So for collaborative closure, I spent from a tap leaf channel a factory, reconstructing the factory. It used to have n tap leaf channels, now n-1. And the other outputs are the settlement in this happy case. In forced closure case, spending from the factory, reconstructing the factory, and on the second output, L2 trigger, after a window period, I can exit. And as for the refund, similar, instead of having L2 trigger, I can do refund trigger and exit from the channel. So the difference here is for the refund breach, instead of the revocation signature committing to the out point, because in this case out points are unpredictable, we replace this out point with a channel ID. So channel ID commits to the revocation message. Channel ID is the revocation message. And channel ID is basically the factory ID. Factory ID can be the funding output of the factory in the first place, and concatenate with the tap leaf index. So this gives us a unique channel ID that I can sign to give as a revocation. So we have to iterate it further. With factory swaps, I can make a submarine swap between 2 tap leaf channels. So I have an existing tap leaf channel on the left side, deep in the blockchain, and I imagine in a case like I want to send some sats to a friend or relative, similar to key send, but my friend doesn't have enough inbound capacity or no channel at all. In this case, I can make a factory swap with nearly 0 on-chain footprint. So from my tap leaf channel, I do an off-chain swap out, and then on-chain swap in to a new tap leaf channel that is under construction. So I'm user A, I'm connected to LSP A, my channel partner is well connected. The goal here is to create a channel between user B and user LSP B, where channel funds are initially kept in the user B side. In this case, LSP A, I do an off-chain swap out. My LSP is connected to a swap service provider, which stands for, again, swap service, which is a specialized LSP. The goal of LSP is, the responsibility is to, like, SSPs do, SSPs are the party who crafts channel factories in every 10 minutes. And my SSP crafts a channel factory with hundreds of tap leaf channels, and this channel between LSP B and user B being one of them. And when it's confirmed, I can tell the preimage to user B has it, and LSP B now has it. In this case, I can tell user B can tell it to swap service provider, and they can claim HTLCs back in the road. So every party is happy, right? User B got his channel, SSB got his funds, but we have a problem, right? HTLCs has a timeout closure in them. And in fact, we can also revoke that. We can revoke a timeout in an HTLC with a timeout revocation secret. Similar to how we revoked a refund path closure in the channel address spec. I'm not diving into details, but you have the idea. We can revoke a timeout with a revocation secret, and user B can tell to LSP B, and everyone can now consider the channel final. So as for the regular tap leaf channels, we have this template. And as for tap leaf channels, factory swap based tap leaf channels, the tap leaf channel template nests in an HDLC. In a pre-image revealed call and in op-else branch, we have a timeout, but we can revoke that with the revocation timeout. Basically, with this revocation, like when my SSP after timeout triggers this timeout branch, either user B or LSP B can revert back to the regular tap leaf channel state with the revocation. So thank you guys for listening. Hope this gives you some color to my ideas. I guess if we have time, I can accept questions. Sure, go ahead. Yeah, you can force closure. Yeah, you can do a forced closure, as I told. You have three things, right? You have collaborative closures from a tap leaf channel, or a unilateral forced closure, or a channel update. So each tap leaf channel are isolated each other. So one channel exiting from the tree does not affect the others. It's only affected to parties involved in that specific tap leaf. When you close a tap leaf channel, the remaining channels remain open. I guess, yeah, that sums up everything. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Really nice to hear a technical talk about Bitcoin, because this is a great conference, so I think that is a normal level of things that you are supposed to have. Okay, remember that tomorrow we are going to El Zonte, so everybody should be there. El Zonte is a really great place to see all the Bitcoin stuff that we are talking every day happening, because there are people that really don't know what Bitcoin is, but they are using it and accepting it as a medium of exchange.